Colipede Works here, coming to you with one of the biggest chapters of the year this time. We have One Piece, chapter 1179, entitled Narona IMU Descends. Oh boy. The chapter takes us to the Holy Land in the Room of Authority, in which the five elders are reacting to Imu's decision to descend to the Blue Sea. However, the Holy Land is experiencing a starvation crisis. Shamrock's arrival somehow helped that crisis, and York is suffering, which is good because she deserves it. And the Mother Flame is here because we're at Mary Joie in the Labo Phase power plant area. So this is a new area. Interesting. So yes, the Mother Flame's here. I don't think she's got it working, which is odd, because why can't she get it working? I don't know. That's so strange to me. But yeah, she's, of course, having a fit because the Holy Land doesn't have food. And Garling just tells her, well, you got to get the power plant running in order for us to feed you, which is very interesting that this is happening. I wonder, because I had this thought, if Blackbeard invaded, would she leave? Because this was always going to happen. Many people have said since the Holy Land is experiencing a starvation crisis, she wasn't going to be happy when she got there. It's just weird how fast they implemented the Mother Flame into the power plant. It just doesn't seem like Egghead was that long ago, like in the course of the story. In real time, it's been like, what, 5 years? But I don't know. That's just so strange. That's so strange thinking about it now. But yeah, they're just going over how all these problems resurfaced once Nika showed up. And that's when we cut back to Imu, and the five elders keep telling Imu not to leave. But Imu starts to contemplate all the things that have happened within the course of the last few years. Imu thinks about Zebek coming back. Imu thinks about Roger being executed, Shirahoshi being born, Shanks stealing the human fruit model Nika, Harold's death, Loki being the captain of that fog ship, Whitebeard dying, the discovery of Luffy, which from this shot looks like it was at Marineford, in which Imu started paying attention to Luffy because we see Jinbei in the background as he is holding Luffy. And then Imu also thinks about Marshall D. Teach, Cobra talking about Nefertiti D. Lily, and Imu taking out their frustrations on Joy Boy and Davy Jones. From all of these recent frustrations, Imu summons a pentagram and starts to set off. And then they're just gone. They're gone. What is this burned down building though? Because we get like a pan away shot from Pangaea Castle. We see this burned down infrastructure in the background. What is that? So we flash back to Elbaf, and Gerd is messing around with Somers' body, taking him apart like a magnet. Oh, that's crazy. But that's when Goldberg discovers his weird mechanical heart, and Zoro contemplates, if I destroy this, would he still be able to patch himself back together? Which is a good question, because I wondered what that was. That's so odd, because it's not a devil fruit ability. So what is that? That's so interesting. But we then flash to Sanji as he looks upon the scattered and hanging body parts of Remo Shifu Killingham. And he says, I won't forget your name, Sanji. You better remember mine. And Sanji says, I already forgot. That's funny. So you remember during the Kuma fight in which Sanji says the world government would know him as an important pirate. This seems like the start of that. You can argue that's already started because he has a bounty and whatnot, but I just find that interesting that a Holy Knight specifically is saying that he'll remember his name. And then we see that Gunko is still encased in ice. So Loki arrives at the Frozen Walrus School with Ragnar and Luffy, and he remarks, someone froze the school? That's when Vegapunk Lilith says, not quite. Its thermal energy was absorbed. And he goes on to say, well, this is a bust. All the school's lunch supplies are rock solid and tasteless now. And it looks like Luffy's trying to eat a frozen piece of bread, but Ragnar's digging it. I love Ragnar. That's when Luffy asks Loki, that person you froze earlier, are they dead? And here's a very interesting part, because Loki says it was a flash freeze, so they won't die, but they can only be thawed out by Ragnar here. They won't be able to escape at any rate, so don't sweat it. This is the first time in which we're seeing magic ice. Because, like, if you look back at Yamato, right, and her powers and using the dog fruit Mado Akuchi no Mikami, it didn't have any magical connotations to it. Her cryokinesis was just straight cryokinesis. The ice itself was not magic. So that's why Ragnar's kind of interesting here, which I already said this like way beforehand, that Ragnar was a mythical Zoan. Like, that was obvious to me. And then we got confirmation a little while ago that Ragnar has the Ratatoskr fruit. So yeah, but this is the first time in which magic ice is a thing, because any other time we've seen cryokinesis, it's just been straight ice. Even with Brooke's cryokinesis is just straight ice. There are no magical connotations to it. So that's interesting within itself, that Ragnar is the first magic ice user, you could say, in the series. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Meanwhile, Nami and Zeus are trying to put out the flames, but she sees something. A gigantic downfall of black energy comes from the sky. Freaks Nami out. This black energy shoots down all across Elbaf, and we see a giant pentagram form in the sky. The lasers of dark energy start to animate the surrounding buildings, turning them into demons. So this is kind of like Big Mom's Soul Fruit, which I'm trying to remember, did IMU have any connotations that they could do this before? No, right? No. But it is interesting now, because this is the first power, I think, that is any way similar to Big Mom's. So this is wild. They also animate the surrounding trees too. Crazy. Turning the trees into demons. So the homes and the trees are demons. Crazy. Everyone is reacting to the giant pentagram in the sky, as the sun realm, from the looks of it, is encased in black flame now. But a giant bolt of black energy hits Ort's castle. The children are knocked out by the enormous flood of Conqueror's Haki. And in the interior of Ort's castle, IMU has landed. Now, here is where we need to pay attention. IMU is still shrouded here. They cough up blood. Bat wings appear. The castle explodes. Jarl, Dorian Broggy shout, "Who is that?" Sommers and Killingham react and saying, "The Great One. Don't tell me he came here in person." And then atop a spire of the castle, we see them. World Government Creator. The Creator. Wow. One of the first 20 ability Devil's Fruit. King of the World. Say Nerona IMU. Now, first of all, some gloating is in order. I told you he would have the devil fruit, but we said I'll link the video because I've said it quite a few times, but there is one notable time in which I called it out. So I'll point to that one, but it's basically all across the channel. Looking at Nerona IMU now, they appear to be male. So the times I said that Nerona IMU is a woman appears to be wrong here. However, I'm not sure. The reason why I'm not sure is because they look very effeminate, first off. Secondly, this is not their base form. The form that we see is quite a lot to take in, but it is a transformed state. So they have horns. They have white hair, they have dark skin, and they're wearing garb that is very Albathian coded, looking at it now, which is super odd because the belt looks like what, say, Loki wears. It's very interesting. They have the Depths Covenant on their cape, so I don't know what the third level of the Covenant looks like now, because it just seems to be the same mark as IMU gave Harold back in the day. It doesn't seem any different, but we know that there's a third level to the whole Covenant seal thing. They don't have a tail, but they have this long ribbon around their lower body that's encapsulating the spire of the castle of which they are perched on, and it ends in a forked tail. But here's why this is weird. I don't know what form of IMU this is, because we've seen several now technically. Because, okay, we have this one, we have the cloaked one we all know, and then there's a big monster one. Because if you recall, when Sabo was attacking IMU way back when, they turned into this gigantic monster and ate his flames. So I don't know what's going on here exactly. My synopsis is that this devil fruit, this devil fruit, is probably a bad fruit. I've said this before. I think it's a bad fruit still. I want to say it's a human fruit, but based on the devil that we see in the mural, it's probably going to be a bad fruit. And the reason why this is so important, I guess you could say, is because recently at SBS 114, we got a reason why as to Stussie's fruit is spelled the way it's spelled, and that's because of a video game character named Patrick Redfield, whom also has a mythical bad fruit, but his bad fruit is called the bad fruit mythical model vampire. So because that exists, even though that's not technically canon as opposed to Stussy's canonical bad fruit, I wonder if that's going to have an impression on this ability here, because multiple times now we have seen devil characters associated and supposedly associated with Emu with bat wings. Even in this very chapter, when Emu possesses the trees grow bat wings. So it's odd that Emu themselves don't appear to have any wings. So here is what I'm thinking. Emu has several forms. I don't know what form this is. I think normally Emu is a woman. The cloaked figure that we've been seeing for the past, how long? 10 or so years now? It's been a while. That figure I think might be feminine. I think that is a female figure. But when they transform into whatever this is, this might stay male. And the reason why I say that is because in a lot of depictions of demons and devils, they tend to have traits of both genders, right? So they might be a man here, but they might not be male presenting all the time. That's what I think. Because technically, we've never seen, even up to this point, we've never seen what Emu looks like normally. And this is going back to the whole body snatcher theory that we made a while ago. I do think they look like Nefertiti D. Lily normally, but then when they transform, they look like this. And then we know there's another transformation that most likely is the form that we see in the mural, and that's probably the form that ate Sabo's fire back in the day. So now, breaking this down even further, the Hagoramo is a wheel. It's not a shroud of clouds. That's interesting that it's different, because I said a while back that the Hagoramos could be a sign of divinity. But now this puts an interesting wrench in that theory, because what is this actually? Because it still seems like there are black clouds present, but they've enshrouded either the hilt or the bottom of Emu's staff here. I'm not sure what. And that's another thing too. Emu, while possessing Gunko, had a pitchfork. It just manifested a pitchfork out of nowhere. So I wonder what this is now. You know, that's a very interesting thought. I wonder what this is. Can it just become multiple things? Is the cloud a sort of loading zone for just multiple weapons to appear on the end of the staff? That's a thought. But now, with this ring of clouds containing eyes behind Emu's head, I wonder, is that a special Hagoramo? Is that something only specific to this devil fruit with this level of mastery? Matter of fact, how much of what Emu is wearing a part of their devil fruit, and how much of it is normal clothes? Is the cloak the only normal thing here? Because I'm not sure, because it gets a little weird with mythical zones. And obviously, Emu's a mythical zone. We call it that too. We call it that because, I mean, after a point, it just became obvious. Not to sound arrogant, but it just became obvious. So there's a lot to just take in here. Okay, so the horns and the dark skin are all part of the devil fruit, most likely. The white hair, also a part of the devil fruit. But yeah, I wonder when it comes to the clothes and the weapon for that matter, are they all devil fruit generated? Because they very well could be. It's a lot to take in. It's so weird to finally see a face for Emu, yet to have so many more questions. And I'm hoping, maybe this is a bit presumptuous, but I wonder if Emu is going to give us a devil fruit breakdown. I kind of wonder. And of course, the name of the fruit is probably going to come up at some point. The name of their fruit meaning. So yeah, wow. But I kept trying to tell people too that like, there's no other special power going on here. It was always going to be a devil fruit. But I do hope they give us a breakdown on devil fruits in general, or at least their understanding of devil fruits. Because what's so interesting about the Hagoramo thing now is that I still think it's attached to divinity as opposed to morality, because we did do a video on both. But I'm just thinking that it's divinity because Killingham as a Kieran has a white Hagoramo. So I wonder, do the colors, and now I guess you could say the shapes, do they matter? Is this ring even a Hagoromo? That's a good question. I don't know, because we know that weird things happen with these Hagoromo concepts, because for example, Yamato, whom appears in the art request of this chapter, which is very interesting, but with Yamato, from what we've seen in SBS, she has always had a Hagoromo, and we know she's not awakened. Even as a child, when she ate her fruit, she had one. So it's really perplexing as to what these mean exactly, because one would think they're a sign of awakening, and that has been the case for a lot of Dofra users up to this point. But like, when they start becoming weird shapes, you wonder, well, is that a Hagoromo? Is that something else? And we know too that not everyone needs to be awakened all the time. Like Luffy's not. Luffy's not. Even going back to Lucy. Lucy doesn't appear awakened all the time. So it's a lot to take in. It really is. Even the pants, looking at IMU now, jumping back to the clothes, the pants are even Albathian coded, because we've seen people wear striped pants, like Usopp, for example. Speaking about Usopp, it's very funny that Usopp called IMU a coward in the previous chapters, but then they decide to show up themselves. I find that hilarious. People have been saying that around the web, and it's true. It's very funny. But yeah, it's a lot to really take in looking at IMU right now. It's really a lot. I don't know. I don't know a lot of things right now. It's very interesting. I'm happy I was correct in some cases, but yeah, it's just a lot to take in. So with that being said, that's all I have for you today. If you're liking the content so far, hit the like button. And if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button, followed by that bell so you never miss a video. And if you could, please hit the hype button. And I will say there is a break next week, so I'll keep you supplied with content until we get our next chapter and get more answers. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede. What?